Welcome back everyone, part 2 of the rusty MX5. I've done a little bit more work since last time. I remember the battery ran out on the GoPro for a little bit while I was charging it. I've done a little bit more work and got a little bit of time lapse of taking some of the rust off. We'll have a quick look at that in a second. It is quite a horrible Saturday morning, nice and early, about 8 o'clock actually. This week mainly has been like Christmas. Parts coming in everywhere for it. I'll have a look through these in a second. I'll have a quick look at where we are at the minute on the car. So I believe it still had wings on last time. I thought, if we're going to this trouble, we might as well take them off, check everything up here was alright. Like I said, I've got a little bit of the time-lapse video to join on to this one where I've cleaned sort of this area up. You remember these were all bright orange and everything else. I made a start with the grinder and the wire wheel. A little bit in here as well. You can see where some of these have turned into holes. Which ones? That was the one for the electrical connector, which I ground the bolt off, where it's gone nice and soft. A little bit more around there, a little hole in there and there. You compare it to the other side. This is the side obviously I haven't touched yet or anything. That was what the original one was looking like. Had a quick look in the wheel arch area as well. So obviously this is our main area of fault, which is we've got our repair panel for. We still need to remove this, the anti-roll bar bracket. So there's the bolts in there, which you see both of them snapped clean off. There's also, with these, spot welded, one either side. So they're to drill out, and then we'll take that bracket off. Also, you need to take this top arm off, the big bolt through here. I believe it's going to be one big bolt right through to this side. So obviously we need to be sort of cutting down this area and underneath, which is obviously going to get in the way. While that's off, I may even drop the strut out just from the top. Obviously it's nice and easy, everything's out the way of these at the minute. It's just going to allow me a little bit of access just to paint in the back of here at the same time. Had a little bit just around where the bolts and everything and clips went through the top, we could see the rust. I've just cleaned up some of these areas. This had a bit of rust in here, so I'm glad that I've actually taken the wing off to double check it. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to go with this yet, whether I take the old under seal off. I've got stone chip and everything else to go on. I'll figure it out as I go along. One of the other little areas as well is the top of the wing. As you can see, must be bolted in factory and then painted once it's fitted in the factory. They're both the same on both sides, sorry. Radiator is now gone. I can't remember if that was on the video or not. That was pretty easy. The two brackets are in here, and on that side just comes down where it mounts on the bottom. And then when your radiator's in, you bracket it just onto your two bolts on there. Just goes onto a bracket about here, holds the radiator in place. Top hose on there, bottom hose is down there, which I am going to take that off. So obviously that clips into, a bit of a bad view, clips into the chassis leg where we're going to be cutting, so that's going to have to come back to the engine and that. So that's pretty much where we're up to at the moment. Like I say, I've still got some more to do on this side. But this week, like I say, more like Christmas in the house. However, pile of parts. I have ordered more than what I would ever need just to do these chassis rail repairs. So just to make people aware of that before I go into it. Zinc primer first off, because it's the easiest to grab. These were packs of 3. So I bought 2 packs of 3, so I've got 6 of them. So I have absolutely loads of them. But I'm going to be looking at trying to do the inner wings, the front wheel arches, rear wheel arches, and I know I have a couple of little rust patches on a couple of other cars as well. So while I was ordering, I thought I'd just order that extra, make sure there's enough there. Next, stone chip protective coatings. Exactly what it is. Like I was saying, I'm going to be coating the front wheel arches on them. So there was 2 coats, two of them. Like I was saying, there's 4 wheel arches that I'm wanting to do eventually on the back. So I've sort of started to order stuff for the back while I was buying and purchasing everything anyways. The main bit of kit for today is these are our chassis rails. These come all to the right size. they're all pre-drilled and have the nuts welded to them. So if I don't drop it, all the nuts and everything are welded inside. The bolts on the front. Company is the Welding Corner. I didn't know who these were actually coming from. It was one of them where I found them on eBay. They looked about the best. These were about £90 for the pair. Like you're saying, they come, so obviously they're both sided. You got a left and your right. So yep, so that's our main repair panels for today. Like we're saying, all of these are all got the welded in, so there's no guessing where your anti-roll bar brackets should go back into or anything like that. So as long as I get them welded in the right place, there should be absolutely no issues with everything else going back together straight and exactly as it should be. Like I was saying, also I have gone beyond what I'd really need to do, just the chassis rails. So there's stuff in here which I should have bought, to be honest, years ago. I've got a roll of like the cellophane plastic for covering the cars when I'm working on them. Like I'm saying, this should have been a purchase for me years ago. Basically take it out, the cut out of there, pull the plastic through, literally it'll just be a full sheet. I think it's 4 meters wide when the roll's 150 meters long, so just literally cover straight over the top, fold it down the sides and tape it up, just for painting and stuff like that, to stop any overspray or rust or anything sitting into the paintwork or anything. Like saying, one of them purchases I should have done years ago, but it's going to protect the car now, so that's it, I've done it. Again, spot weld drill bits. I know I've only got 4 spot welds to do. It's one of the things that I should have bought ages ago, instead of messing on with drill bits and making a mess of them and stuff like that. So I bought a couple of them. Our new arch lining clips. These were the ones for the plastic wheel arch liner that goes into here, and they sort of clip into these sort of areas. I found that when a lot of them came out, especially these top ones, so the likes of in here and this one and stuff like that, where the clip had gone through from underneath, the rust had actually sort of became that tight that it cut like part of the actual flare part of the clip off. So I just ordered some new packs of them. And lastly, that has come through this week, belt sander. Yet again, another tool I think I should have just bought years ago. I bought one of these for my work probably about 2 or 3 years ago. I got the 10mm one, which was obviously, it's just half a size. This is a 20mm belt sander. It's such a handy tool to have. Hopefully this is going to be as good for me at home as what I've got at work. Like I said, I've got a load of different belts. These are actually just assortment belts, packs of assortments. So you can see, where is it? So I've got 6 80 grit belts, 100 grit belts and 120s, and 7 60 grit belts. That's quite aggressive in there. So I've just bought varying a few packs of assorted packs, if that makes sense. Like I say, and this should hopefully give me a lot of access to different areas where I just need to knock back. Like I say, the grinder with the wire wheel attachment has done, generally as always, quite a good little job. There's just these little areas, stuff like trying to get inside of here, and some of these are a bit of a nightmare. Hopefully that belt sander will just give me that little bit extra, that I can sort of get into the tucked into the corners and stuff like that, and actually knock the rust right back out of it. So yeah, so this week that's all the purchases so far. There was a couple of other little bits and pieces which haven't actually turned up, but hopefully by the end of today I can have chassis rails in. Right, I'm saying, so them chassis, in fact I'll grab one. Which side have I managed to grab here? Don't think that's the right one. There we go, I think that's that side. So yeah, as far as I know, so that's sort of where your chassis rail is going to kind of sit. And you see the sort of the size of it and everything else. Like I'm saying, you've got your 2 bolts, trying to point and hold, 2 bolts for there. It'll be your 2 bolts for your chassis, your anti-roll bar mounted stuff like that. Like I'm saying, these should all line up to exactly where they should be, so that's going to save us so much time and effort. I'm going to paint the inside of these as well, and also you'll see when I get this cut out as well, I'll paint inside all the rest of it as well. So hopefully we can get cracked on today, and at least the legs will be in. Like you say, we'll get rid of all this crap and everything else. Hopefully even just get even onto like a primer paint or anything by tonight. So keep you updated. Right, little update time. I'm now onto my chassis rails. I'm looking at them and lining them all up and everything else. The idea was to do the first one, get my head around what everything was with it, and then going to film going through the whole of the other side. But as I'm coming across it, obviously I'm finding where maybe my issue points are and everything else. I don't know if you can see it, I've sort of marked out the area there, across and down. And you'll notice that the end of the rail goes across this little panel, and also it's going to cut across the bottom of this one. It's not that badly rusted in there, so I'd like to sort of leave that intact if possible. But also when you come onto the inside, so this is where the bracket was this morning for the anti-roll bar that hung down here. And what I've been doing is I've got the chassis rail for the left hand side and using it as a sort of a jig to mark out for the right hand side, because they're complete opposites, they're a matching pair as such, so all your measurements and everything are all the same one side to the other, and vice versa. Your bolt holes are all in the same place, I've made sure of that. So what I can do is take it across, and where I've popped a couple of bolts in and there, and what that's allowing me to do is put that panel on the outside of this chassis rail and align up the bolts. So it's giving me a good indication of where my cuts need to be. And what I'm finding out at the minute is on this section here on the angle actually comes down about here. So it comes down and then cuts forward and then across. What I don't want to, I'm not really that bothered about actually cutting into this. The insides of these are generally quite good anyways. So what I'm wanting to do is sort of cut it back. So what I'm looking at doing now is I'm just going to take 30mm off the length of that, off the to return it back into there. And then also I've marked up, you can just see the faint line there, that's 20mm, and round the bottom as well. So where the bolt is, the bolt's still going to be intact and everything else. So that would pull it back from the line that I've marked there. It would pull it back to about here and round, and like I'm saying, there's the bolt that snapped off when I was removing everything, but it would leave it sort of here, leaving this end bit completely intact. Like I said, that's just a little update of how my fittings are going. Like I said, I'll record the whole thing going through the other side once I get my head around everything. So cool. We are now well into the afternoon on the Saturday. The first chassis rail is in, welded, and everything else. I've managed to figure out where I need to go, where I need to cut and everything else, like I was saying earlier. That's actually it fitted. So that's the repair panel. I've ground these areas down, obviously. These are the ones you're still going to be able to see. Left the ones that you can't see for the strength and everything else, so underneath and at the back and stuff like that. And then just to show you on this side as well, so as I was saying earlier, I've dropped all the struts out, dropped the top arm off and everything. Big 27mm bolt goes right through, but that's our repair panel in. So yet again, knocked that one back and then left the main bit for the strength, knocked a little bit back off there, like I was saying, left the ones on, and that's it all fitted. In my haste, unfortunately, like you saw earlier, what I was using was the opposite side for the templates, so I had it bolted to the outside of here and I was scribing round the new panel. What I've done, a bit of a boo-boo, to be honest. Got all ahead of myself and everything else, and it was ready to weld and it was ready to put in, and I got it all nicely lined and everything else. I haven't scribed this side, I haven't marked it, so thankfully I know kind of where I'm going to be and what cuts I'm going to have to make and everything else. But obviously now I haven't got such as a template as such. I could try and use the old one, but the way they've come out, they're probably bent and buckled and everything else. The other one sort of comes up into here. I'm not going to cut it as far as that. I was right before about coming down and into this section here. I haven't touched the other side, and the same with that inner. I'm just going to come down to here. There's actually a panel inside here, which I didn't know about. Well, I've cut down where it's originally fitted on the other one. As you can see, there's little spot welds in here. It's not the best of pictures at the minute, unfortunately. I'd started to actually cut through this inner panel, the inner divider. So I'm going to try and just bring that back maybe about 5–10mm. I'll probably just bring this one straight through flush on this side, and then I'll take that, the 20mm I think it was, off this side, and the 30mm on the other side as well. Because of how long it was, I was going to try and just video it in one sort of go. I think it's going to have to be a time lapse because of how long it would actually make the video. It'd probably make a video at least an hour long to watch cutting and welding, which isn't the exciting parts, or the most exciting part, shall I say. It's one of them time taking things. I want to get it right, I want to get it the joints nice. I could do it a lot quicker and just sort of rattle it in and just batter a load of weld over the joints and everything, but it's not what I want to do. So I'm going to take my time, get it right, and hopefully I'll be at least somewhere close before the end of the day of getting this side in as well. Cool, here comes the time lapse. that's it. I think that's going to be a long enough video. Hopefully that's the time lapse and everything's gone together. It's a bit stop and starty, I know. I didn't quite get the run that I wanted to. I was hoping to try and get that last chassis leg in. It's sort of one sort of go, but no chance. Sitting in a tin shed on a day like this, absolutely red hot in here, and especially if I'm trying to use a jumper and that to cover my arms and everything. I'm absolutely roasting today. But that's the chassis legs in, like I was saying. That's the main part of this now done. So there's driver's side one. I've flattened off these little areas, but I've left most of the main runs and everything else, just to try and make it look a bit neater when it's all painted up and everything. And that's you can see inside of it there. Like I'm saying, just that bit and that bit that I've flattened off, and then the same sort of on this side. I've flattened them. Ooh, nearly, and I've flattened these areas in here, but that's them now in. They are absolutely solid and going nowhere. You maybe saw on the time lapse I'm maybe having a little bit of problem on this weld on here. I had a little bit of an issue on the other side as well when I first done it, and what it was, it keeps sparking and splattering and everything else. So there must be something on the old chassis leg that's not really agreeing with the welder, or whether it's like sealer or something tucked in there that I haven't seen or something like that. But this side was a lot worse than the other side. I just either kept wanting to blow out or just splatter everywhere. If we have a look at the old chassis legs, that's you see where the damage was. This was the driver's side one. I think this is the better of the two of them actually, but you can sort of see in there where it's two parts on the original one. In between them is where it goes. It starts to spread out. That's the underside of it, still starting to bubble. So that's them all done. I'm going to do a part 3 to this video, I think now, looking at how much it's actually taken us. I've got little bits of this cleaning up and everything else, but I've still got to touch into this side and get all this cleaned up, and then obviously wheel arches and everything else. So I'll put that in a part 3 of this video. We'll get this one edited and uploaded as soon as possible for you all to see. But I'll go back into it, clean all these up, and now I'm going to be painting these. I've got these still to repair, the bits on here, the little bits on here, a clean up on this side. I don't think I'm going to have to do any repairs on this, thankfully. I think it's just going to be a clean up job, and then the same in this side, just a clean up in here and a paint up and everything else, and then hopefully we shall be seeing the finished product within at least in the next week or so anyways. So yeah, here's till part 3. Thank you very much, catch you later.